Welcome to Now You're Talking. Today's guest, Michelle Abraham, is a powerhouse entrepreneur, podcaster, and mother whose journey has been anything but ordinary. From being inspired by her father's resilience to carving out her own path as a podcasting leader, Michelle has built a life rooted in connection, creativity, and courage. In this conversation, Michelle shares how podcasting became a lifeline during motherhood, how living off the grid reshaped her family's connection to nature, and why setting healthy boundaries around technology is essential for today's parents. Michelle also reflects on her travels, her experiences with grief, and the lessons she gathered from parenting experts along the way. Most importantly, she reminds us of the power of trusting your inner voice and embracing life's adventures. You will find more information about Michelle in the show notes below. Please subscribe, review, and comment on this podcast. Let the conversations begin. Michelle, thank you for joining me today and being my guest. I'm excited that you're here, and I would just like you to share a little bit about your journey and how you've helped so many people through podcasting and businesses.
Well, I was lucky enough to grow up with an entrepreneurial dad. So
Okay.
I saw him start tons of businesses over his lifetime. Some did well, some not so much. But what I always appreciated is that he got up and tried again, and he didn't stop looking after his dreams and going after the things that he wanted. And so that really inspired me to become an entrepreneur. In fact, my brother's an entrepreneur too. We have a business together.
Yes.
But my first business, I think, was a babysitting business where I had the whole block booked up every Friday, Saturday night. I was booked to babysit from the time I was about 12 years old on.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, you got into podcasting before it was even a word that most people knew.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
yes,
Yeah. So my why in podcasting, or like like my spark for podcasting came a lot earlier than most people even knew what podcasting was, and actually started when I was a brand new mom. So my son was born, and I had a busy fitness business before that, and I had boot camp locations all across BC, and I was busy and I had a physical location as well as also remote locations. And so I was going back and forth to my studio all the time, and I was wanting to listen to something fuels my brain. And so when my son was born, we started listening to podcasts, and I turned on our TV at home, and there was this purple app, and I was like, what's on here? I started listening to some podcasts at home, then realized we could listen to them in the car. We could listen to them like wherever we were, which was really cool.
yes,
Um, and I'd start to ask my mom friends, well, what podcast are you guys listening to? And they'd look at me like, what the heck's a podcast?
blank,
What are you
blank.
talking about? And
Yeah.
so we have this joke that if my son's not going to be an entrepreneur when he grows up, I don't know what went wrong, because from the time he was born, he was listening to podcasts about business and
Really?
building businesses and entrepreneurship since he was just a baby. And it wasn't surprising when he was 10 years old and he wanted to set up a pop and chip stand at the beach. Those podcasts were
That
drilled in
tracks.
him.
Well, I find that fascinating. I find that fascinating that that was sparked your passion for being an entrepreneur was watching your dad and the ups and downs of that. Because before you keep, can you tell me what is one lesson that your dad taught you?
I think my dad always said it was never anything he really like, not like a lesson or something that he would verbally say, but it was watching him in those moments of, I think I would have had a different perspective had he always had successful businesses. But the fact that he had unsuccessful businesses several times that were even in bankruptcy, to get back up, pull yourself together, redefine who you are, get some new education. One time he went back and became a real estate agent, but he went and took the courses, and watching him study and watching him get into that will to do whatever it takes to bring food into your family and to have a business that you're proud of and that you like doing. So it was that work ethic, I think, that really
Yes.
inspired me to keep going even when things are tough. And the faster you fail, the faster you get to success.
Yes. And so you started telling us about why podcasting. So why you
Yeah.
started before anybody knew it was even a thing.
Well, I just started as a listener. And what happened when my son was born, and as I mentioned before, I had all these busy businesses, and then all of a sudden I was at home with a baby. And It's not that I didn't love being home and with a baby. It's just that my business brain was like, what is going on here? Like, we're not doing anything. And, I can look back now with probably a little bit of postpartum depression there, just getting into that funk. And so the podcast really pulled me out of that, where I knew this girl was going to provide a podcast every Monday. And I listened to all her previous episodes and I put my earbuds in and I get ready to take my son for a walk as the new episode came out and we can listen to the new episode. So we got into this routine and it really inspired me and motivated me. And it was like stories like the guy behind Ugg boots, like why he started the boots and all his journey. And it was called the Eventual Millionaire was the name of the podcast and still out there today. And like, I loved it. It was great. So that really inspired me to, I think, well, if I had that personal transformation from listening to this podcast, I can't imagine if I could help so many other people get their voices out there on podcasts, even though nobody knows
Hmm.
what they are right now. I see this future where we could help millions of people just by helping people get their voices out there onto these sound waves and people can hear them and download them and listen to them just like I had as a new mom. So that's really what inspired me.
Well, that's great. And so, how are you managing? Because I know you have two kids, a son and a daughter, who are teens and preteens. Is that correct? So, how are you managing this digital era with all the screens and all the complexities of that when your whole business is online?
Yeah, I always laugh and say that I run a multi six-figure business from a she shed on a lake in the middle of nowhere, Canada. And if I can do that, anyone can do that. And
Yeah.
that is true. We do live on a lake. We live completely off the grid. But my kids go to school like normal kids do, and like it's just across the lake, and they just have to take a school bus. But I work online, so I am constantly online, and I love what I do. So I really have to manage myself as a role model because I know when I've been on a computer too long, I start to not feel well. And I can
Mhm.
relate to the kids not feeling well from spending too many hours on devices. So it's interesting because it's not necessarily the screen that I have a problem with. It's what they're doing on it that is the problem. And
Exactly.
so if they're on there, my son is taking Spanish with Duolingo on his computer, and I'm okay with that. That's totally fine. You can spend as much time as
Yes.
you want doing that. But if you're surfing the YouTube shorts for a long time, that's just feeding garbage into your brain. That's like uncensored, unregulated stuff. That really is
Mhm.
scary. So we definitely have some parameters, but I think I've taken a little bit of a different approach to technology with my kids where I didn't put a lot of I started noticing when they started getting interested in iPads or having devices that there was this constant fight happening where it's like time limits and getting off and not fighting and not getting off. All that kind of stuff was happening. And soon we did a little experiment. We said, okay, how about if we don't have this fight all day long? And we set some healthy boundaries and set you guys up to understand how to monitor yourself. So, here's what our expectations are. Here's what we think is too much and when you've had enough or here are some signs that your body if you're forgetting to go pee or you're forgetting to eat and you're getting hangry, that is definite signs that you've been on there too long. So we started educating them around some things to be aware of for themselves.
Mhm.
And here are some better choices of things to do on there than not so great choices. But we took away the taking away electronics as a punishment kind of thing, or, doing this, like do this, or you take no more iPad time, or that kind of stuff. So we don't do any of that. We let them consume it when they want and they have done their chores or contributed to household
Yes.
things or they've done their homework or whatever. There's not really very much homework these days. After they've gone out and done some activity after school and come home, I understand we just want to relax or, recuperate. And I value that for the kids. I think they're overscheduled and too, crazy right now as they need that
Mhm.
downtime. But they they've become really good at self-regulating. So even this summer, my son was playing video games quite a bit in the spring. He actually took himself completely off them over the summer. And he got interested in wakeboarding and golf and helping out with outdoor chores and hanging out with his cousins. And he was on his technology hardly at all this summer. So I don't know if
By
it's the right way of doing it.
choice. By choice.
Yeah, by choice.
That's
We didn't
interesting.
say anything to him. Yeah, and he's 13. So he just turned 13.
Yes.
He said he's bored with all the games that his friends are playing. He doesn't want to play them anymore. He wants to do other
Hmm.
things that are not on the screen. And so he's self-regulating himself. And that was our hope, that they would have start regulating themselves. And my daughter will watch for a little bit and she'll turn it off and she'll go play with her toys, or she'll start doing a craft, or she'll do something else. So
Hmm.
I think, I'm not saying this is the right way or we've done it right, or I don't know. It's still an experiment, but my belief is that they're now educated on how they feel and how much is too much for them, and they're self-regulating themselves a little bit.
Wasn't that great? Now, when you say, I'm just fascinated to hear, when you say you live off the grid, and when I think of off grid, no devices, no connection at all. What does it
Mhm.
mean in your life?
So in our life, we really do live off the grid. We have no power. We have no
You have no
electricity.
power.
We have a propane stove and fridge. We don't have a microwave. We can't blow dry our hair. We can't do that kind of stuff. But what we do have is two power sources. We have solar panels. So in the summer,
Yes,
the solar panels will charge and then they'll charge our batteries, and we have an inverter. And so that gives us a certain amount of power that allows us to watch a show on the TV, or run the dishwasher, or run the washing machine. We don't have a dryer, so because that takes up too much power. So we hang all of our
yes,
clothes in the clothesline. And in the winter, we have a creek that runs through our property. So we have a water turbine that creates actually more power in the winter than we have in the summer. So we can actually watch a little bit more. Like, we don't have TV, we just have Netflix. We are able to watch maybe a movie
yes,
once a day or something like that. So we can have a few things, phones charging and things like that. And then we
yeah,
have a rural hub for our Wi-Fi. Now, without Wi-Fi, we would probably be very hooped and I wouldn't be able to do my
yes,
work. So Wi-Fi was a major thing. And at first it was actually really not good up here. The rural hub was okay, but it like had to stretch across the lake and it was connected to the cell phone tower.
yes,
And unfortunately, there was too many people on the cell phone tower, but once they all got fiber optics on the other side of the lake, a lot of people moved off the cell phone tower for their Wi-Fi, which gave me good Wi-Fi.
yes.
Finally.
So how does that I find that so fascinating. How does living off the grid, how does that contribute to who you are as a family and who your kids are as young people?
They definitely spend a lot more time outside than most kids, I would say,
Yes.
because we have a large property. They can be outside. We live outside most of the time,
Yeah.
which is good, and then they have to contribute, like, this is a big property that takes a lot of work to maintain and to keep up with it, so they have to, do chores, and things that, involve contributing to the family and helping us. My husband and son were working on a project creating a new dock this summer. My daughter helps with the gardening and watering plants and that kind of thing, so I think it's good, is it makes them have to participate a little bit more in family contribution, which is good.
Yes.
And then there's some things that are conveniences. The only thing I really miss is a slow cooker. No crock pot. I used to like cooking in my crock
I
pot. No
know.
crock pot. But everything else is manageable, and it seems like, to us, it just seems like normal life. And my kids still don't understand how lucky they are to live like on a lake and take a boat to school. It's quite the
Yes,
story.
yeah. That is, it's fantastic, and when I look at your background too, I think you had a time in your life where you were living out of an RV and then you have a travel business, and can you just sort of, give us more of an overview? 'Cause I just find it fascinating.
Well, my whole 20s, my goal was to get paid to play and have fun. So I worked in ski resorts and ski tourism companies, and I did outdoor recreation for college. And I traveled to probably 55 countries
5
around the
countries.
world. I worked for cruise lines. I've worked for different parks and recreation and different experiences like that. I was an outdoor educator for outdoor education center here in BC, where we did like whitewater kayaking trips with the kids and overnight canoe trips and hiking and all sorts of cool stuff and zip lining and stuff. So I made it a goal to have a lot of fun in my 20s. And then
Yes.
in my 30s, when I had kids, one of the things that was great about being self employed is that my husband was able to take parental leave. And so we had a year off when my daughter was born. And we thought it would be a cool time to take a trip. It was just before my son went into oh, no, he went into kindergarten. He was in kindergarten. And, if we were gonna leave for 3 months or 4 months at a time, kindergarten would be the
Yes.
time to do that. So we left during kindergarten, and we bought an RV and I created, actually, you'll like this, Adrian. I created a podcast and a podcast RV summit. So I created the summit because I wanted to learn about RVing and I knew nothing about it. I interviewed 25 RV experts and influencers in the space. I created a podcast episode and a summit interview with each of them. And then after the summit was over, I sold recordings to the summit from the podcast. So I launched the podcast, put all these episodes out. At the end of the episode, we would sell recordings to the summit. And while we were on the trip, we were able to fund a lot of the trip from that summit. So we bought
Oh
our
my goodness.
RV for, I think it was about $9,000. We spent
Yes.
6 months traveling from Vancouver all the way down to California and through Arizona, Nevada, and all the way back up. And then we got back and we sold the RV for $13,000 a few years later. So we
That's
did well
fantastic. Yeah.
on that. We had the trip. I think between the summit and the sale of the RV pretty much paid for our trip.
Wow.
But
So when you say
it's pretty
summit,
cool.
it was that is very cool. So when you say summit, was that because you were again ahead of your time, where people weren't used to doing the van life or the nomadic life? It sounds like you were ahead of it. And
Yeah.
was the summit to teach other people or for them to learn from you?
The summit was kind of like for my own learning, but yes, and also to collaborate with other people because as we were then on our trip, I was meeting some of those people I had interviewed and we would meet up. And then I was actually asked to speak at some RV events, which was kind of cool about
Yes.
podcasting. That kind of like it became an interesting space to be in that I became an expert in that space, known for podcasting. And so it was kind of a cool, like summits are a great way if you don't know anything about an industry or a situation to create a summit around it. And then makes you knowledgeable. Like we created one around NFTs, like when they first came out, and that helped me
Really?
kind of understand what NFTs were. I interviewed all these people. It kind of helped me understand what NFTs were and kind of put us into like a leadership space in that space too. So yeah, so I've always kind of used summits as a way to gain knowledge and understanding around this particular topic that I didn't really know anything about or wasn't really an expert in before.
So you just sort of research an area and then you connect with influencers and people that have knowledge in this particular area, and then you just go and interview them somehow
Yeah,
through the podcast.
that was a summit. Yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah, and then launched the summit with the podcast. Yeah,
Wow. Wow. Well, that it sounds simple, but that's total brilliance. So
thank
from
you.
your perspective in this digital era, what are some lessons that you've learned in terms of parenting that would help other parents?
So one of the podcasts, research. I love podcasting for research. Partner and he had a parenting education company and they wanted to do a podcast. So I volunteered to be the host of the podcast and it was called Blissful Parenting. 300 episodes later, I interviewed like every major parenting expert out there. And I kind of gleaned from that, like, there's really 10 things that they all say
Yes.
about parenting, and connection is the number one thing. So, connection with them. So, as long as you're doing your job, I know one of the things, the episode that you and Abby did about
Yes.
her having some iPad friends, iPad zombies as friends that kind of freaked me
Yes.
out a little bit and it made me really kind of like go, "Oh my gosh, yeah, like that's really true." Like a lot of these kids now are being babysat by their iPads. And I was trying to go back and go, okay, I'm pretty, yes, our kids spend, several hours a day on devices, but we also spend at least 30 minutes of connection time every day between. And one of the gifts of living off the grid is that, they can't just go out, after dinner and go to the mall or whatever because it was too far away and there isn't one around here. So we play
Yes.
board games. So that's something that we love doing.
Great.
So we'll play games or we'll read or we'll do craft or activities or go for walks or whatever, do things together. So that connection piece I think is huge. And that was always the number one thing that the parenting experts were always saying is connection. So I think as long as you still have that connection and that one-on-one connection with each family member every day, then I think it reduces the impact that the devices have on them. And I think there's still I've read our book club at our school. I'm trying to see if I had it with me here, but our book club at the kids' school, we read The Anxious Generation this year by
Yes, I've read that.
Jonathan. Yeah, it's such a good book and really eye-opening, especially scary for our daughters, and some of the things that they're learning on there. So I'm always
Yes.
after my daughter to stop watching YouTube Shorts
Yes,
because
yeah.
even the kids ones, they get things on there that are not appropriate for them.
Yes.
So I think
I
keeping an eye on that and always knowing what's on their devices is a good thing.
Do you parent in the digital era, your son as it relates to digital and devices? Do you parent your son and daughter differently or the same?
That's a good question. Well, my son is 3 years older than my daughter, so yes, we definitely parent them differently because they're at total different stages. So my
Mhm.
daughter does not have a cell phone, will not have a cell phone for another few years, where my son just got one this year, being his second year in high school. For him, actually, the reason we needed to get him one is for our own peace of mind because he didn't get off the bus one day and then we couldn't find him and we wouldn't know where he was. And it was like, okay, if he had his phone, then at least I could track him on the phone.
Yes,
So
yeah,
it was really more for our own peace of mind. We definitely do parent them differently because they're at different stages, not because they're boy or girl, but
but
they're at
just different.
different stages. And I find
Yes.
they're interested in different things too. She's more into this YouTube shorts. What really bothered me is when she was younger, she used to like watching shows of other kids playing with toys. When you stop watching them and go play with your own toy, that was a bit weird. And then my son was never into watching those, and he was really only into video games, and so we had to be cautious with the Roblox and Minecraft kind of games and not talking to strangers online and that kind of thing, where she's nowhere near any of that stuff.
It seems to be a difference in the video games still. The boys gravitate more towards it. So I love that you play board games, Michelle, at night.
Mhm.
And what I'd like to do is ask you some questions off of my Now You're Talking
I'd
board
love
game.
to. Abs
And so that's why I was so intrigued with the influence that your dad had on you and the choices that you've made in your career. Because now you're talking board game. Part of the questions come from the impressionable years. And
Mm.
just like, in my book, Unravel You, it's about what starts in high school and, things that happen in high school repeat throughout a person's lifetime, in all aspects of a person's lifetime. But those impressionable years, the first job and the influence that our parents had on us and how they shaped our whole perspective and our values. I am going to ask you a question out of the impressionable years card. So, what would your younger self be most surprised about your life today?
I actually don't think she would be surprised. I think she'd be like, "You did it! Like this is what you were
You
always like talking about, what you wanted to do, and like there you are doing it." So I think the most surprising part would be that it actually like came to fruition. We always thought that we were gonna do vision where we wanted to live, kind of thing.
It is amazing, isn't it, when you really set your sights on something, you move towards it. Your subconscious moves you towards it when you have real clarity, when you don't even know what's
Absolutely.
happening.
So much under there when we don't even know what's happening down there, but it is moving.
Exactly.
It's just like when you're pregnant, you see pregnant people everywhere.
I met with a psychiatrist years ago, and I can't remember, but he was in Vancouver. I can't remember his name, but he said to me, "If you think about the conscious mind being the size of a golf ball, the subconscious mind is the size," and he said BC Stadium, but of any stadium. So it's all that stuff that's in our heads that we don't even know it's there, but it impacts the decisions we make in every aspect of our life.
Right, but then also the storage our storage unit there, we're seeing so many images every day in our life. That's why the shorts really bother me because all those short images of things that the kids are just then storing that in their mind and they can't tell if that's reality or not reality, right?
That's so
It's like
true.
where that's like, hey, that's it's gonna be hopefully deleted, and but it will distort like how they then see their life.
That's so true because the subconscious mind can't stop anything from coming in, whereas the conscious mind can say, enough. But yes, that's so
Yeah.
true. Yeah. What advice would you give your younger high school self?
Hmm. That's a good question. Younger high school self, I challenge her to have more fun and not be so serious. Life's gonna get serious in a few years, so have as much fun as you can and just have
Well,
fun.
that well, so when you said that right from the beginning, you said you wanted to create a life and businesses that would allow you to have fun and everybody. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very cool. Who is your inspirational role model?
I think both my mom and my dad for different reasons. My dad for always going after his dreams and like never giving up. And like when something was hard to keep going, he always had a positive attitude and he had a lot of ups and downs, but he always had like a really positive attitude and outlook on life. He had a celebration of life last year. And everyone said this
Tough
is that he made everyone feel like the most important person in the room. So people would
boy.
naturally like gravitate towards him, right? And so he
Yes.
had this magnetism about him that was very apparent to not just us, but to a lot of other people. We didn't quite realize the impact he had until that celebration of life. We saw the people with all their stories of how he made them feel or things that he did. So he was really good at that. And my mom is always really been an inspiration to me for holding it all together. Like she was really the glue in our family when my dad was like up and down, up and down, up and down. She was like
Yes.
the stable, secure one that was always had our backs, had our best interests at heart, and was always like, if dad might wanted us to move off to wherever for a new business venture, she was like, nope, we're doing it here. Like we're staying here. So being that glue and being that strong voice in our family. My parents had very interesting roles that were very inspirational to me that were not traditional at the time. I mean, I was grew up in the early 80s. And so this was kind of like the both parents being home or the dad being home more than the mom.
Yes.
Both parents cooking, both parents doing laundry and dishes was very new. And they did a 50-50 partnership very well, which was
Hmm.
very inspiring.
I'm on the outside looking in, but it certainly sounds that you've continued that in your family. By living
Yeah,
off the grid, you have to all be in it together, I would think, for it to even work. So that's and you're that doesn't surprise me that your mom was the glue who was the steady because you would need one the steady person with that entrepreneurial person that
exactly,
serial
which is why my
entrepreneur.
husband, he's an entrepreneur too, but he's very great, and I'm the one with the big ideas and plans that goes all over the place. So there's always gotta be one that's the stable one in the
For
family.
sure. Yes. Yeah. Just a couple more questions, Michelle. Let's see. How did your 20s contribute to who you are today?
Well, I have a little bit of a different kind of 20s than most people had where I graduated high school. The next day, I was on a plane to live in Switzerland because I wanted to be an au pair for a family from North Vancouver. So I got
Wow.
hired through my high school program. I couldn't get into college till I was 19 for the program that I wanted. So I had a gap year. And my counselor found an opportunity for a family that was living in Switzerland to go
Yeah.
live with them as their au pair for the year. So I
Wow.
did, and I spent an amazing year there. But at the end
Yes.
of that year, two of my friends came to travel with me. We were going to travel 3 months around Europe afterwards, which we did. And about 8 weeks into that trip, one of my friends was killed by a train on that trip. And
My
because we
goodness.
were 18, just turned 19, and having been there right when having to make the phone call to her dad and having to go through that grief, like at a young age, it kind of changed my 20s in a big way. So I did go back to school. I did finish college. I did three different college programs, but I was always, what's the next adventure? What's the next life is too short. Let's make the most of it and have the most fun, which is why in the very beginning I said my goal in my 20s was to have as much fun and get paid to play and travel and see the
Yes.
world because I saw my friends' life disappear really quickly in front of my eyes. And I
Boy.
look back now and I realize that it was probably grief that I was kind of running from that whole time of being like having to like, what's the next adventure and this and I got to do all these things and trying to cram. I probably crammed 3 lifetimes worth of things in my 20s because I was afraid of what I saw at 19. That you don't know how long you have to live on this planet, so make the most of it
Wow.
while you can. And it's taken me a long time to process that grief from that experience, but it actually wasn't until podcasting and I started using my voice and speaking about it that it allowed it to process and to kind of come out and kind of start talking about that experience. So I think podcasting for my grief recovery
Yes.
really allowed me. The first time I talked about it on stage, I broke down in tears, and then I realized I'm like, "Oh, I have not really actually processed this yet."
Yes. Yeah. It is amazing how adversity can shine a light and steer us in the direction we're supposed to go in, even though as terrible as it is when it happens. It can somehow chart a new path or a new course for us.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely. I think I would have been pretty complacent in life if it wasn't for that. Like, it probably would have been a little too comfortable. And instead, it challenged me in ways that I didn't expect. I look at it as like a huge blessing, however horrible it was. And it was a huge blessing because it changed my perspective on life.
wow. And was that the drive to see 55 countries partly?
That was part of it. I was a
Yeah.
part of just wanting to see the most of the world and travel while I can. And I knew one day I was going to have a family and meet a
Yes.
husband who is very grounded. I knew that was coming to an end. So I did make the most of my 20s by doing as much fun stuff as I could.
Wow. Boy, this is just the beginning. I'm so glad I'm going to get to know you better, Michelle.
Yeah.
I'm going to just ask, let me just look
These
here.
are great questions. I love these questions. I can't wait to get my hands on
Thank
this
you.
game.
It is soon going to manufacturing, and then
All
it
right.
and I will keep you posted, but first quarter of 26. That's what we're
Awesome.
aiming for. This will be describe a time when you trusted your inner voice.
Let's describe a time of trusting my inner voice. Hmm. Lots of times, and I'm glad I had. Let's see, one in particular, when Eric and not my husband's Eric, when I first started dating and having kids and getting married, we did the Canadian dream, American dream. Got a house, got the kids, the cars, da da da, suburbs, whatever. Went to school, got the jobs, and then we're like, this is what it is. Not sure about this. And I always had this voice in my head like, this is not it. This is not it. This is not it. And I'm like, "Oh, but this is it. This is what they say it is." And so I was going out personal training at night while he came home from work and we had a new baby. And anyways, few years go by and every weekend we rush up to our family cabin, his family's cabin, and spend the weekend there. Sunday we had to pack up, come back to the city to go work the next day. And we were always like, oh, this sucks. Like, wish we could not have Mondays. We didn't like Mondays. Let's just put it that way. I love Mondays now. Monday's my favorite day of the week. Back then, did not like Mondays. That's how I know if you're living a good life or not. You do or not like Mondays or you like Mondays.
That is so true. Yeah,
It's a good determination
yeah,
if you're doing
it
well or
is.
not. So did not like Mondays. Anyways, we had a flood in the middle of the night one night. 3 o'clock in the morning, rushing water in our living room. We're like, what the heck? We get up and turn off. It's that our water filter exploded. Well, we have this flood in our house. And then we had to get the restoration company in. We were moved out of our house for 6 weeks. We got put up in a condo in New Westminster, downtown city.
Yes,
Not our vibe. Not our vibe. We lived up in the mountains in Port Moody and it was beautiful up there, but not our vibe in the city. So we said, okay, well, now we're out of the house for 6 weeks. We have a new kitchen, new area. What about just trying to see if we sell our house, see what happens? And we've always been like talking about moving to this family property. Let's move to the lake. My husband was in a job of 17 years at that time in our 30s. Like, what 30-year-old's been at a job for 17 years?
right?
Mine. And so
Yes,
I'm thinking like, no way he's ever going to leave his job. But we kept having this little voice. This is not it. And we talked about it and we talked about it and talked about it and talked about it until we were still doing nothing about it. That's when the universe decided to kick us in the butt and give us a flood in our living room. So thank you, universe.
wow.
Gave us a flood in our
Yes,
living room. We moved out for 6 weeks, decided to put our house for sale, listed it, sold in 2 days, and then we landed at the lake. And we landed at the lake for a gap year. He was on parental leave for the year with my daughter. And so
yes,
we said, well, great, we'll spend a year here, see how we like it, then figure out where we're going to move to. We needed a bigger house anyways. I had 2 kids and only one bedroom. And so that's great. Give us an opportunity. Well, that was 8 years later. We're still in the same place at the lake and now we've moved in and it's been our home. So I have to say, you got to listen to that inner voice. Sometimes this is not it. This is not it. If you don't listen to it, the universe will kick you in the butt and do something for you, like a flood in the
yes,
house that will allow you to get on the right path.
right. Boy, what a great story, and thank goodness you and your husband, Eric, are on the same page. Because there's such big choices
Mhm.
where you'd have to have the same values and want the same things out of life for it to work.
Yeah, and it's interesting for our kids, though, because they're like, "Well, like, you guys are both at home." Like, it's an interesting thing for them to watch because we are blessed to live in a beautiful house on a lake, and we travel a lot and do a lot of things together as a family. We both don't have to go to a 9 to 5 job. We both are self-employed. We always say to our kids, we've chosen a lifestyle. Sure, we probably could be making a lot more money if we both lived in the city and were working 9 to 5 at corporate jobs and climbing
Mhm.
corporate ladders and having mortgages and things. We could probably be more financially off, but we've chosen a lifestyle over that so that
Yes,
we have more time freedom with our kids and more connection time with family versus the bank account. So though it may appear that we have more of a lifestyle because we don't have some of the expenses we would have in the city.
yes.
We don't have electricity bills and those kind of bills, like, we don't drive our cars hardly ever, like, maybe once or twice a week, so we don't have gas bills, like, there's a lot of things that we've done in this lifestyle that looks like that we are in a financial situation that's probably different than we are in, but it's 'cause we've chosen lifestyle and connection over the normal 9 to 5 thing, and we're trying to make sure that our kids know that it's not that one's better than the other or wrong than the other. It's just what we chose, and that's why it looks different, even to
Mhm.
their friends and even to others.
Even to their friends, 'cause most of their friends are not being voted into the school bus or into school.
No, and they also don't go on as many vacations as we do either, right? So it's one of
Right.
those things that we have to help them understand that, well, we chose to live, and this is a little bit more of a harder place to live, but it's so we have saved more money so we can do other things. So,
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. So, thank you very much, Michelle. I appreciate that, and taking the time to answer these questions because you never know what you're gonna get.
Oh.
So, what words of wisdom do you have for that will help other parents? Please,
Yeah, I think just connection with your kids is the most
connection.
important thing, and when they feel disconnected is when trouble happens or when things are not happening. Like if you ask my parents, I wrote a letter in school that said that like I didn't have any rules in my family. And my parents like, you have rules. What are they? Because I don't know what they are. And they said, because you've never broken them, so you don't know what they are. So you didn't
Right.
rub up against them. Right. I
Yes.
think give them boundaries and structure and connection and love and know that you're a safe place for them. I think that's the most important thing parents can do is be the safe place for your kids. And that's why we get the worst behavior is because if we are the safe place, that's why they behave the worst with us. If they don't feel
I
safe with
agree.
you, they won't behave badly with us. They'll behave
I
badly at school. So if they're
Yes.
behaving badly at home, that's a good thing, not
Yes.
necessarily a bad thing, just because they feel safe. But having that connection and that open communication, I know my parents, I was never afraid of my parents getting grounding me or disciplining me. I was more worried about disappointing them because they put that much pride into me and that much love into me and instilled that I was a good person and make good choices.
Mhm.
That was more I was more worried about disappointing them in a way of, not behaving well. Not that, getting bad grades wouldn't disappoint them. It's a different kind of disappointment. And
Yes.
so it was never a discipline thing. And so I think that's helped us and that's the advice I would give to parents too.
Yes.
And one thing I wanted to just add when we were talking about video games for boys, my son started doing VR instead of like he was playing
Ye
Minecraft and Roblox and things on his device and sitting there. And then he got the headset for
the
VR and started playing these games that he had to move and be active. I would actually rather you do those kind of games where you're active
Yes.
than the games where you're just sitting there.
Oh, well, that's good.
I just wanted to bring that up because that's kind of a cool
Thanks.
different device that allows them to
Yes,
still be active with that.
but it gets them off the couch, so
Yeah, and one
and
of the things I
up and
liked
around.
about it is that I started hearing him play with other kids. I started hearing his leadership skills, and he was teaching other kids how to do things. So we have an open loft where he plays, so I can hear what he's saying and I can hear those conversations.
Oh,
So
good.
keeping open doors in your house is a good thing, so I can hear what's
Yes.
going on. But I like that he was learning some leadership development skills around the games too. So that's not always a bad
Well,
thing.
Oh, that's great. And I wanted to just comment about the safe place and parents creating a safe place. I think that is the true result of unconditional love.
Mhm.
That is it's when you know, because I know raising my girls, I knew that they could be difficult at times, but they knew they could be difficult because I was their mom, and always knew that I would always love them unconditionally, no matter what. So I
Yeah.
think that's where the safe place comes from. Oh, well, Michelle,
Yeah,
thank you. Thank
absolutely.
you very much for your time today
You're
and for
welcome.
sharing your wisdom. And I look forward to getting to know you better.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on the show, and we're so happy to have your show on our network now too. So very
I know I'm
exciting.
excited. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian.
What an inspiring journey. Michelle Abraham's story shows us that resilience, creativity, and connection can transform not only our families, but also our entrepreneurial dreams. From raising kids in a digital world to launching a podcast in an RV, Michelle demonstrates that sometimes the unconventional path leads to the most meaningful life. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe to Now You're Talking, wherever you listen to podcasts, and share this episode with a friend who could use some inspiration. And remember, meaningful conversations start with just one question. Until next time, let the conversations begin. Now you're talking.